Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are and whatever time it is. We're here to connect, reflect, and dive into life's biggest questions, one conversation at a time. And this is episode 2 of Good Morning, Good Afternoon, Good Evening. And we have two special guests and also one of my potential podcast partners is on here, Chris, discussing some things. And we're in two different time zones. That's the backbone of what Good Morning, Good Afternoon, Good Evening is. Any place, anytime, anywhere. I'm here in Virginia, and these two gentlemen are in California. So it's a 3-hour time gap, but still at the same time a little bit. So we're trying to make it work because the premise is anytime, anywhere, any place. We will talk, we will conversation, real life, real people, real stories, real feelings and real emotions. So without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce our fellas. And we got my man Joshua. Joshua, tell the viewing audience who you are, where you from, and what about yourself, bro?
Yeah, I'm Joshua. I'm a Southern boy. I'm originally out of Texas and Louisiana. Moved out to Los Angeles about 18 months ago. I'm an alcoholic. We call it a dual diagnosis. I have alcoholism, and I also have some mental illnesses that I deal with and I work through and I find coping skills with. So this is going to be a great experience sharing myself with you guys and being part of this. And this is really going to help my recovery of being a service and getting the word out there.
Yeah, my man Chris, what you got, brother?
Yeah, my name's Chris. I am what you would call an immigrant to the United States of America, a grateful immigrant. Family's from Italy. We migrated here when I was 2 years old, and the goal was basically land of opportunity, right? So I'm one of those experiences where I grew up as, an immigrant. I'm not American. And so there was a lot to that, so I get to like kind of hopefully share a little bit about that, in other episodes or this episode as well. I'm also a addiction professional. I work out of the state of California. I hold an international counseling credential for addiction professionals and state certified in the state of California. And I've been doing this for over a decade. So the goal and idea in my life today is like I help people further. That's what I've been doing. That's what I do. And fortunate enough to share these experiences with people like Josh as well. And we do this to help people and so we can be of service to anyone that has any kind of generalized problem, whether it's addiction, mental health, or youth, or whatever. We're not doctors. We're not therapists to diagnose anybody here. We're just here to talk and talk boldly about life.
Sure. When you first arrived in the U.S., at your tiny age of 2, what did the world look like through your eyes as a young Italian immigrant? And how did you balance the hope and the weight of starting over? Of course, it's different than starting over because you came here at 2.
That's an awesome question. So in my experience, the first thing I really remember is when you're that young and you see a really big airplane, you fall in love,
Right.
And, that was the first love. It's like, I get to be 2 and fly across the world. And some people don't really remember that far back, but I have pretty good long-term memory. So I remember clearly, like, the things when I would land here. Well, number one was like the McDonald's sign. I'd pass by and say French fries at that early age. And number 2 was airplanes. I get to see them at the airport because I had to travel back and forth to get, to be able to live in this country, right? We went through all the, regulations and laws, and we traveled here the right way, and we were able to migrate to my aunt, who had a triplex in Venice Beach, California, and also a salon in the heart of West Hollywood back in the 80s. That allowed us and the rest of the family to kind of come over. There's a name for it, I can't remember the name, but, we were able to migrate because our family had a business here in my dad's sister. As far as I remember, it really was like a very interesting experience, but also at the age of 4, I had to go back to Italy for about a year, which is a requirement in order to complete your, whatever transition from country to country and the green card, Italian passport situation. You have to fly back there. So I remember going to school there for about 10 months. So I had to experience 1 grade in Italy, and then I came back here, and all of a sudden, my family placed me into a Catholic school. And it's like I had to restart in a new language that first grade again. Even though I did preschool here in LA,
Right.
before I even went to that first grade in the Middle East. So my experience was very interesting, and I have all the memories of an immigrant, and some of the feelings behind that. Growing up here and not being American, which included sometimes a sense of jealousy, right?
Right.
That all American family, right? So for me, my parents had accents and they were full Italian, so we didn't really get to. There's a sense of difference when you're growing up, right? It's like, yeah, like I'm different than that, right? We're not from this country, so it definitely got different feelings up, but it was definitely a cool experience.
Good, good, good. And move on to Joshua. Joshua, I got one for you.
Yeah.
Now I remember you mentioned that you was a Southern boy, right?
Yeah.
So as a Southern boy, who were you as a child growing up in Texas and Louisiana, right? How
Yeah.
did the environment and family dynamic shape your view on the world that early on? Because you say you grew up in Texas and Louisiana, you had a lot of stuff going on. So
Mhm.
how did that dynamic shape your view on how the world is at your age that you can recall?
Well, for me, really, and in my situation, my mother, she was 14
Okay.
when she had me when she was just turned 15. My
Mhm.
father was 19, 20.
Mhm.
Both of them suffered from substance abuse and alcoholism, and my mother with mental health. Growing up in that time, I was born in Corpus Christi, down on the beach. I've already by the time I was 1 years old, I think I've already lived in 3 or 4 cities, going back to family houses. Growing up in Texas at a young age was difficult because I never knew if I was going to go live with my mother. I didn't
Mhm.
ever know if I was going to live with my father. I didn't know where if I was with my mother, if I didn't know where we were going to lay our heads at night, or if I was with my father, I didn't know if I had to be strong, be tough, take what was coming to me, and just no tears, No, it
Yeah.
was it was be a man. Go outside at 6, 7 years old, digging holes with shovels, working on the land, and just working through that. And as I progressed, as I got older, I started noticing these behaviors and noticing I started didn't really like it. So I started getting involved in organizations outside of school and started missing more school. I
Right.
started
Right.
integrating into the streets a lot more with people that I felt that were more family than my family at home. Because in that life, you stop trusting the people that are closest to you, like your mother or father, whenever your mother and father can't even take care of themselves. Whenever I was in the streets and hanging out with these guys, that we thought that we had the world in our hands, but we
Right.
weren't doing it the way we should have been doing it. When I should have been at school playing football at football practice in ninth grade, I was ditching practice to go to hang out in abandoned apartments or buildings. And seeing that side of Texas and Port Arthur, it's like I never got to see the sunshine. It was either hard work or fast living.
Right,
And
right, right. And it's funny because myself, I grew up in Detroit. I was, and I seen a lot of what Detroit has to offer,
yeah,
the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I always found myself in certain situations or predicaments to where, I came from a single parent home, and I'm the youngest of four, and I saw a lot of things at an early age. This is many moons to date myself, many, many moons ago, right? This is like in the 70s and 80s. I saw a lot of stuff at my age that I probably shouldn't have been privy to, but it wasn't at no fault of my mother. It
mhm,
was no fault of anybody. It was just the environment of where I stayed at. Now we stayed in a pretty decent, a nice area. You know what I'm saying? Just slightly, probably slightly above middle class. My mother had a great job working at the hospital. And so I saw a lot of stuff, but I always would find myself putting myself into predicaments and
mhm,
situations, right? So I know we've all been there too. We know right from wrong, but sometimes you have that I don't give a damn feeling in your bloodline, and then you just lead into that, right? So, Chris, who introduced you to the world that led to you to some of your toughest mistakes? You ain't got to drop no names, but who introduced you to that world to where you start making these decisions? And we do know right from wrong, but sometimes I think it's just situationals that make us choose the latter.
Sure. It's a great question. It's kind of like, I think for me, it's not the introduction. I
Mhm.
came from a very loving family, and not everybody's story is like that. Like
Mhm.
some people came from the opposite, like Joshua was saying, where I don't have that experience coming from, that tough, you know, childhood background where, it happened so early for him. So the upbringing is a little bit different, but once you get used to a certain type of decision making to kind of fit in and
Right.
to feel like you're in control of your life because you're just having fun, right? The fun goes out of hand and you start getting involved in like being more problematic. And so I kind of like, I think the grasp of being addicted to being problematic earlier in my life was really something that I felt like, comfortable with for some reason. And I don't even know why, right? There's no real answer other than it caused me to make a lot of big mistakes in my life to where I got involved in areas very similar to Joshua, where, I made some of the largest mistakes, including leading to like some incarceration and stuff that I used to think like, like self pity myself over perhaps. Like, why would I, get that deep into, either substances and being around the wrong part of town and society. But today it's like, it's funny how it emerges a little bit differently because I'm actually grateful for those experiences because the mountain of things that I was able to build today has really reflected on like it brought me here, it brought me success and to give back. And that's where the beautiful part of the story really comes in. It's like there's this old road, uh, you know, to get to the best, you got to go through the worst. Well, for me, it's like that's kind of how it worked out. My path laid out to like really, really huge mistakes that I knew I was doing the wrong thing
Mm-hmm.
to a path today where I like fortunate enough to like hold a credential in the
Right.
substance abuse professional in the field and be able to give back to the community that people look at really as like, a problem or a nuisance to
Yeah.
society.
Yeah. A scab on society, all that crap.
Right. And the reality is these are always people, and even people with mental health these days. Come back. I'm not here to like give any like therapy, but people with mental health are looked at differently,
Mm-hmm.
and there's also that cultural block. Including myself, coming from an Italian background, the culture is like same thing as any masculine culture, right? My father was like, "You want to get your stuff together, right?
You can say
You
shit.
just do it."
Sometimes, hold on, real quick. Sometimes I think a well placed curse word just brings it all together. So if you say shit, and if it's needed, if a shit is needed, then shit is needed.
Exactly. Right. People that I help for a living, it's like you meet them where they're at,
Right.
and you just got to be that person at that moment to know what really to lay out. And for me, it's been like a roller coaster of a life because like from nothing to privileged,
Mm-hmm.
right? We moved here from Europe to gain something. People look at Italy as like, oh, it's such a beautiful country. I want to live there, so on. Well, guess what? There's no work there, right? We come here for work, America, right? So the country may be beautiful, but the struggle is real, right? And my parents came to a decision to like, for their kids, me and my older brother, um, they really wanted to like give us something that the family hasn't really
Mm-hmm.
received yet, right? And that was like an opportunity in the U.S. I'm forever grateful for that because really, beyond all the mistakes and things that I did in between now and when I came here, it really helped me help people for a living. And I get to do it with Josh these days. He actually works with me, and I'm excited to have brought him here to this, podcast to really like show any audience that like you can overcome things.
Exactly.
Don't let him sell himself short. He's my
He over
mentor.
there being humble.
He's trying to be humble about it. But he knows he's my
He's
mentor.
being
He
humble.
has guided
He's
this
being humble.
business of counseling more than anybody I know.
And that's great though. That's great though because listening to your story, and then I'm gonna transition over to Joshua real quick because everyone has always say everyone has an origin story, right? And everything has a starting point. And it's almost like in a movie. There's acts, act 1, act 2, act 3, act 4, so on and so forth. And then we all have different acts within our life cycle that puts us in certain positions and have certain, nuances about who we are as a person and how we navigate through those acts. I never say how we deal with And I'm gonna say it again. I never deal with anything. We navigate through things, because if you deal with it, it's just coming
Yep.
to a head. You don't move. But if you navigate, you just try to find a path. So we navigate through difficulties. We navigate through struggle. We just don't come to a brick wall and just be stagnant, right? So with Joshua, what did substance use represent for you during those darker times? Was it as an escape, a rebellion, or something else? Like what thought process was you processing that made you feel like, okay, this could be the avenue to make me feel a certain way that you probably were searching for?
Yeah, that's a good question. In the beginning, I could never tell you the first time I used
Right.
them. Nothing was in a manual that told me I had to remember the first time I used when I used.
Right.
But I remember the first time I realized that it was something that I would never put down for a very long time,
Uh-huh.
because it gave me a social status. It gave me the right to know how I want to feel.
Right.
It wasn't because what other people wanted me to feel. If I was feeling hurt, if I wanted to feel good, I just take something.
Okay. Okay.
This all started at 13 years old. I'm from around Houston area, so we were out there with the doctors and when all that happened, and
Mm-hmm.
so we just knew there was a pill for every occasion. And first it was social. That's the good times, is when I had good times with my friends and my buddies, and it was our little escape. That was our way of getting together. As people smoke weed or drink,
Mm-hmm.
we took pills and weed. And then it got to a point to where it got in the way of life. And so I just had to take it to start feeling better, to where I wasn't sick anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got to a point to where it got ugly. It wasn't just bad, it got ugly, because now I have to make myself self feel better. But now I got to find a means to get to it. So now I started doing crimes. I started doing things that were what no no what most people would consider illegal.
Mm-hmm.
We would obtain things by, if it wasn't taken from somebody else, it was taken from our children, or if it
Mm-hmm.
was taken from our family, or if it was taken from the 7-Eleven up the street, trying to figure out what it could do. Instead of it being fun anymore, started being a way of life, to where we couldn't control it.
It's
It
almost
was
like it became your normalcy.
it became our DNA.
Okay.
It got to a point to where I never thought I could ever be sober.
Okay.
I never thought in my life that I would get to the point that I'm at today. I thought my world was ended. That I thought that I would be that way for the rest of my life, and if I made it to 35 years old, everything was a bonus. But I never really thought about the traumas and stuff I had. But that was the thing, that drugs and alcohol didn't allow me to think about the trauma,
Mm.
because it was so suppressed and woven into who I was, to just drink and use over everything, that I didn't ever know how to deal with the behaviors or emotions I was feeling. So I was like, oh, pop a pill for it.
Yeah.
There's a pill for that too. Or there's a pill to feel good, or there's a pill for intimacy. There's a pill to go dancing.
Yeah.
Until I realized it messed with my mentality.
Yeah, but would you saying that, just to expunge on that a little bit? So how do you feel? How has that changed your thought process about over the counter medications, like when you're feeling ill or you have your sore knee? Because you're not a 20-year-old whippersnapper no more. So I know,
Uh,
I know them knees is
you're
starting
right.
to hurt a little bit. So how has that transition into just like daily meds, Sudafed or Tylenol?
So do you want the present feeling of that, or would you like to know what it was like trying to take a over-the-counter med during that time? Because now I've taken 3 Tylenol since I've been sober.
Okay.
I don't take medication. Like I have a fear that inside of me that creates a habit of knowing that if I take a medication, that it could end up being my relapse one day. And that's just for me
Right.
personally. But I've also learned the holistic ways of taking things. Like I know that anything I need, it's either in nutrition, hydration, or rest.
Right, and yeah,
That
because I always wondered, and that, again, you just learned me something. I always say that, where you learned me something I didn't know. That I always thought what the process was with that, coming off being, having
Mhm.
succumbed to, an addiction. And how do you move forward with daily ailments like cold medicine, Robitussin?
I'm scared of NyQuil, bro. I'm scared of NyQuil. I promise you. Because I'm the type that looks at the ingredients and I'm like, we
That
used to
is.
get high off that, man. No, man, I can't.
Yeah, yeah. What about you, Chris?
Super cool little comment you said there. That's something interesting that didn't know about you, Josh. That fact that you will only take like 3 Tylenol since
Mhm.
If you got your stuff together, or if your shit together, let's say, like earlier. Anyways, for me, it's like, I take it for
Mhm.
pain. I'll take Tylenol for pain. I have to remind myself, I didn't have a Tylenol problem.
That's funny, but not funny. That's funny, but not funny.
Good dark humor.
And that's the uniqueness from how the brain manifests, like, and triggers each individual separately, right? Everybody's experience, and like I would say that maybe such a addiction to probably some, extreme, narcotic medication or pills or something,
Mhm.
that any kind of pill would be a trigger, which is normal for people. The important thing to understand is that just because you want to get sober and change your life, that was the route you went through, it doesn't mean that you would have to avoid, for example, non-narcotic medication, things
Right.
that actually aren't addictive, and that's okay, right? And sometimes there's also, a lot of disagreement in the, let's call it, the recovery field, where some people in recovery may need medication assisted treatment, which could include some kind of narcotic. The narcotic would be to prevent somebody from using fentanyl, right? It would be something called Suboxone. And so there's a lot of conflict in the community that's looked at differently. Someone who's taking this life-saving, perhaps, medication that keeps a needle out of their arm may
Yeah.
be still considered addicted to that thing that they're taking to keep that needle out of their arm, or that smoke out of their lungs, or whatever it may be. So it's very interesting because the mind is so powerful for some people. And what really drives me is like self-care. So like when you really bring your life to do things you never tried before that have nothing to do with whatever you were doing earlier, cause you to really have all these mistakes.
Right.
Whether, like for me, for example, I never jumped out of an airplane in my life until I stopped using substances in the first place, right? It's just some things that I had to really fill my life with that brings joy, man. And that's the beauty of, like, not having to, like, even have a drink. I haven't had a drink of alcohol probably 11 years, almost 10 and a half years or something like that. And I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me. Even though it's very festive and it's everywhere, right? It doesn't matter where you go. Every bar, every restaurant has a bar. Every restaurant has a wine list or whatever. And that doesn't bother me. Yeah, because I know what it's like, and they probably don't have enough alcohol there for me anyways. So, you see what I'm saying? I've been there, done that, and that's the kind of way that I like. There's nothing you haven't tried that I'm gonna miss because I've already tried it.
Exactly. Like I know what pineapples taste like. So if I stop eating pineapples, I still know what pineapples taste like. I'm okay not eating pineapples again.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying? I'm over it. You see what I'm saying?
And I like how you said that about the self-care, because the one thing I never did in 36 years was go to the gym and worry about my physical health. I'm there every day. I never owned a cat or an animal, and I have this little crapper named Cheerio that drives me insane. But I got all emotional today about him. Like I've like literally cried over this cat because I felt bad because I took him out of my home to integrate him into my girlfriend's home, but he looked sad. So it was like I have compassion,
Right.
something I never got to feel before because of the self-care that Chris is talking about. Like when we get to finally experience things inside of ourselves for the first time as a child again, man, it's so overwhelming. It feels so good.
Yeah.
We don't have to drink to feel good. I can go to a rave and dance for 6 hours without a pill or an alcohol.
And then you can,
But I'm the paid.
and it's almost like you can take it in totally different because there isn't any blockers or anything inhibiting you from really appreciating certain small things. And that's why I commend you, both you guys, for the journey that you're on, and then how it's become so transformative to how you process things now. And then it's almost like, how can I say it? I don't know the word for it, but I'm gonna say it. It's almost like an aha moment or the light bulb effect. I didn't need that shit the whole damn time. Here I am doing this, and I realized at a certain point that it was more holding you back than it was pushing you forward. And now when you get through the cloud,
that's the mental health part of
Right.
it. So now once we got the substance removed, now we had to do all that inside work. Because to be able to feel like that and be able to have self-care, we had to go and we had to get deep. We had to untangle some knots in there that we never knew that was tangled.
that was just sitting there, just causing more problems than what it used to. But Chris, I want to go back to you real quick. I know you had told me before because we've talked. You know, we've been. This is what Call of Duty year 3 or 4 we've been playing. And I always say at least something like that. I always look at it. You know, how many times I played, how many Call of Duties we played together, and that's how you gauge how much you've grown your friendship. You know what I'm saying? I've got a dude I've been playing Call of Duty with for 15 years. When it first came out, 15 years me and him been playing Call of Duty. Before married, kids grown up, they 30 playing with their sons and things of that nature. And I always try to explain, off track a little bit, but on track. I always try to explain the life of a gamer per se in relations to, yes, we talk, but we just so happen to play the game. We don't play the game and then so happen to talk. Right? Because a lot of things, Chris, that you're sharing with, you shared me some of the stories that you're saying right now before, and just, in between session conversation. You know what I'm saying? Before you had your child, when we had these conversations, you know what I'm saying? We talked about this we talked about before you was a relation. We had these conversations before. And then to see it come full circle, and then to see the pictures that you post on social media from the little pea pod to, you know what I'm saying, a child that's, it's a full circle moment. And that's what makes me appreciate the relationships that you build through gaming, and it's just through a microphone and then through Wi-Fi signals, to where now that I see you, and we've been talking through text messages on phones and stuff on social media for years, and then you look totally different, even though I've seen your pictures hundreds of times with the crew. And then just to see how we interact right here, it's like a full circle moment. And then before we're going to continue, I'm just really appreciative that you took the time out to do this, and we're taking the time to try to grow a platform. And then you bring in Joshua in, because I'm already digging Josh just by the way he's very, very charismatic, and I like the way he articulates the way he's explaining the things that he's going through and where he is now. And then just to give you some roses right now while we're still moving forward, I just really do appreciate the time that y'all give me. But going to what I was saying, I told you I talk too much.
I love it.
No, but Chris, when did you realize that, what is the most unexpected lesson that you feel you learned where you did your stint in rehab? I'm pretty sure that there's a lot. I know there's a lot of takeaways. I'm pretty sure you both can say, yes, there was a lot of takeaways. But what was one of the most unexpected takeaways that you walked away from? That aha moment, like, damn, I wish I'd have known this, or I didn't look at it that way, or I wish I'd have felt this. What was yours? Then, Josh, you're going to hit next.
I think,
Yeah.
for me, like, this is a moment that was kind of like an aha moment, but also a moment where I didn't get it yet, is almost being deported, which was like a very, very, how, you always hear on TV, the deportation camps and sites and prisons, whatever you want to call it. Well, I've been through one of them, and I kicked it with the people in there. And it's not a pretty feeling when you don't know your fate, when you're about to get kind of booted out of this country. And then I was given an opportunity, and I messed up again, but somehow I didn't get in trouble this last time around, and I ran with it, and I said, hey, maybe this is it, but, this is just the time for me to really like show what I'm about, because I don't, just because I got this one chance after I lost that chance doesn't mean that I'm going to get that chance the second time.
Yeah. Because yes, the stove is hot. Ah, shit. Wait, yes, the stove is hot. Ah, wait a minute. Wait, so one time. Okay, I got it now.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. How about you, Josh? When did you have that? When did you have that aha moment in rehab, when you realized something that you didn't expect, that you took away from it, that you didn't see coming?
Whenever the aha moment I had, I remember the exact day.
Oh.
When I woke up. I woke up. I was in a sleep. What is it called? Sleep paralysis, where you can't wake up out of it.
Paralysis.
It's like you're stuck. Yeah. And that was whenever I finally got some sleep. It was 3 days in. I was sleeping hard, and I had this something in my dream. Something was telling me, get up and do the work. Aren't you tired? This is me showing you how tired. And from that moment forward, I latched on and held on to every word, every facilitator, everybody that shared in group, not just the people that were facilitating the groups, but the people around me, my peers. Like, I heard my story in everybody. I finally realized I was no better than or less than the next man because I was sitting with the guy that just hit $10 million lottery but was in rehab.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was with the girl that she was going to get picked up from the ATF from the airport as soon as she landed for discharging.
Right.
And I realized that life wasn't really that bad.
Mm-hmm.
It just made some dumbass decisions
Mm-hmm.
in it. I was never a bad person, and that's what somebody told me. There, you weren't a bad person. You just made some stupid decisions, and that was like, so I don't have to be that person no more. They said from this day forward, be whoever you want to be. Just be real about it, and make sure you look in the mirror and start working on some of that stuff you got stuffed down inside of you, or you're gonna go back out. I said, no, I'm scared.
Yeah, but to take that what you said a little bit further, what do you think that thing that was telling you to get up? What do you think that was? Who do you think that
You
was?
want to know
What do you?
what I thought that
Yeah,
was? You want to know the truth? I
absolutely.
thought that was my version of my God.
Okay.
My God told me, he told me that day, I got one more run for you, man.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I'm going to save your life again for you because you don't get it any other way. So I'm going to have to get it to you now. He said, make a difference, man. He said, make not a difference in just your life, but the people around you. Because like you were saying earlier about nonprofits and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, I've always been this person that was wanting to help
Right.
people. But I always gave the best advice to everybody else, but never could take it for
Mm-hmm.
myself. And God's like, my God is like, why do you keep saving everybody else's life, but you decide to keep playing with your own?
Right.
So that day forward, I said, tired of giving advice out to people that I'm not even myself. So might as well eat my own advice so I can walk and then my talk can
And
match.
now I like how you ended that question with that because I always look at faith driven people and the talk of faith and religion. I'm not over religious. I'm aware. You see what I'm saying? If that makes sense, I'm aware that the Big Bang Theory or the snap of the finger and all this other kind of stuff. I'm aware that there's something else happening outside of us. I'm really aware. I'm in tune with it and I'm in touch with it. So I know when I lay down
Mm-hmm.
and pray, I know that there is something that I'm speaking to. You see what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So I'm not as, into it as other people, but I'm aware. That's why I asked you, what do you think that voice was from your perspective? Then you hit it. No, it was your version of what God is. What you
Mm-hmm.
see, your
Yeah,
version of God.
well, they're not all the same. There are
Exactly.
three of us on here. We don't have the same
Mm-hmm.
one. It's our understanding of what our God is, and I
Understand.
love just being. You said it perfectly. You basically got the definition of
Mm-hmm.
consciousness. You're not religious. You're not spiritual. You're just conscious to knowing that something else is out
Something
there
else
bigger
is
than
happening
us,
bigger
and
than this.
now we're getting out of ourselves. I'm cool with it.
Exactly. No, and then just to transition another one with you, Josh, I'm gonna hold on to you for a little bit. So when did you first realize, and you touched a little bit earlier about your parents. So when did you first realize that your parents' battles were impacting, I won't say infecting, were impacting your life? When did you realize that? What age did you realize that? And then how did you try to pull yourself, or did you just dig in and stay, or did you try to pull yourself or seek any other avenues of any type of assistance or anything?
Man, you just gave me chills for sure. Like I remember I got the first girl pregnant.
Hmm.
She was 13, I was 15.
Right.
My oldest daughter's mom.
Okay.
I have three kids by the time I'm 16. They're 20, 19, and 18
Mhm.
now. They're all great. They're in college. They're doing good for themselves. And I look back and said, I'm following the same footsteps as my parents. I was a very angry person in my relationships. It was either my way or no way. And I started seeing my mother and my father in that because here it is. I had three children, but I had to give them up for adoption because I didn't want to get help.
Right.
My drugs and alcohol told me what I was going to do. It kept telling me what I was going to do for another 20
Mhm.
years until I was 36. And then I had to look back one day in one of these groups that the same thing that me and Chris do on a day to day basis to help people is to sit back and reflect and realize that my parents weren't given the tools to make the choices they needed to make. They only made the choices and decisions they had to do with what was given to
Right.
them. And I had to forgive myself for what I'd done. And it took me a very long time to do that. It took me a very long time to crawl out of that hole of addiction because I had nobody in the world to show me that there was another way, that it would be okay, what we're doing now is something I never even knew was possible.
That's a, that's that's
And
that's that's impressive to be able to be, especially as men, uh,
mhm,
to be vulnerable and comfortable with speaking your truth. Because again, I always circle back to some of the things that we run into with growing up and how society looks at men as a whole. This has nothing to do with age, color, race, anything like that. Just strictly the male gender and how society puts, levels of expectations on our shoulders, but they don't teach you how to navigate through your emotions. They teach us to how to shelter our emotions and how to keep them under wraps or keep them under control, and how you're weak if you cry. You're weak if you show any type of feelings towards something else. Or you're a punk if you go to help somebody. The world has put that negative seed into us, and then it just nourishes. So us being able to talk to this stuff in this format makes it easier for other men to realize that, hey, that I'm not the only one. And like you said, that you were sitting next to a guy who had won $10 million and was sitting next to a young lady that you said the ATF was waiting to do something to her. And then, it's like I said, it's like we're not special to the situation. We're not unique to the situation. But if we put ourselves in a position to where we can navigate to a better place, then we can all be on the same sheet of music. I tell my kids, all the time, I said, you're not special. Like, both my daughters, when they were freshmen in college, one went to St. John's, and she's a senior this year, and one goes to Hampton University. She's a sophomore. That's year two, right? That's sophomore? Year two. She's a sophomore. And when they both went, they both had struggles when they first got there. Missing home. They're by themselves. I said, ladies, the same one I told them, I said, you're not the first you're not the first female to go away to college. And you're not the last female to go away to college. You're not unique to what's going on right here. You're not special because you feel like you miss your parents. There are thousands upon millions of ladies in the same position that you are, missing your parents. At some point, it will come to an end. You just have to go through the struggle to see it and understand that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem that I look at with a lot of people in general. They feel that they're unique and they're special to their situation when they're actually not. You see what I'm saying? But until you accept that you're not unique and accept that you're not special in the situation, and then take a tone to yourself, to the troubled ways or whatever you want to say, and then you can navigate through the issues that you're coming with. But part of that is just accepting that you are who you are. You're not unique, and then try to seek some type of help, right? At least that's how I try to envision it. And that's like me. I'm not special anyway. There are thousands and millions upon people who've walked the same path that I've walked. So me to feel like I'm special or I'm unique to the situation is just, I feel like I'm slapping myself in the face.
That's good. I like that. I mean, you've said it as beautiful as you can about the uniqueness, and because that's where we get complacent. Sometimes we feel that we are the only ones in this earth, that the world revolves around us. Yeah. And as an addict in my addiction, I thought everything was about me, for me, or better be for me. But now I'm willing, just like with Chris. Chris would give his shirt off his back for me if I ever needed it. He takes his time out of his day just to mentor me, and I will make sure to take my time out of my day to do something for him, just to even help him or call him to say happy birthday or how are you doing. That's part of not feeling unique, but to share what we got with each other.
Exactly. So Chris, I got a question. Where do you feel the most at peace, like in your truest self? Where do you feel the most at peace?
Like today,
yesterday, 2 months ago, where do you feel the most at peace?
With my 2-year-old daughter, man. There's these moments that unexplainable, I mean, the kids, I love working with kids, man. And, if I can throw energy into, working with kids that have, problems later in my career, I'd love to do that too. But it's just, you can't, I know that it's not forever. The 2-year-old Luna, that's my daughter's name. And that's what I'm going to miss. It's those facial expressions, man. They're just temporary, and then they're going to grow up.
Then one day they're going to wake up, they're going to take that mask off, and they're going to be like,
yeah, and like, and my woman, man. I'm fortunate to have like a extremely, loyal, beautiful, strong woman in my life. That's kind of like my backbone, and relationships aren't perfect, but she's always there, man. I love her to death, and sometimes, that's one of the things, like, I guess throughout my life that I was really wanted, right? It's just a family like anybody else, right? People
Mhm.
just want to have a family, a normal life. And being able to have that and help others along the way, it's like, man, it's so good. And then I'll still find reasons to complain about stuff, right? Uh, so, so, but then I got to stay grateful. And it's, Thanksgiving's tomorrow. We got to give thanks to like everything sometimes. That's what we forget as a society. It's like we got to thank, our loved ones, our veterans, like whoever went out of their way or didn't go out of their way just to be placed in your life, just to be there, cherish the friendships and like the things that we do have, because not everybody has it like we do, like, yeah, we have some horror stories, but there's someone always out there that's got something worse going on, you know, and they don't get opportunities. So that's where I get this passion of like trying to like reach out to help people. It's like maybe I can get a voice to
Mhm.
hear me and change that one life. And that one life may change another life. And that other life may go on to change someone else's life. Like that's kind of how it works. The magic of like, talking, helping. And you got these like projects coming up or like we just got, we work for a rehab, me and Josh, right here in Los Angeles called Nova Butte. Our website's novabutela.com. And we just got, contracted with TRICARE, veterans health insurance. We're in contract. We got the signatures. We're waiting for the last like week or two of whatever needs to be done up there. But they sent us the last final signature and it's been signed, and we can't wait to help veterans because just like addicts are out there as labels, veterans aren't being helped. And like for my boss, we are a veteran owned, combat veteran owned treatment center that had addiction problems, who I'm going to get to speak on here as well. We want to touch lives, man. We want to show people you can change from anything, man. And it doesn't have to be drugs or alcohol. Everybody's got some kind of problem, relationship problem,
Mhm.
marriage problem, husband, wife problem, maybe problem with the kids, or maybe just problem financially, or
Mhm.
scared of going to school. However, we can make an impact into society and do so, like, that positive, like you said earlier, that lighthouse. It's a good feeling, and only good comes with good, man. And that's the beauty of it. You do the right thing, you do something good. You may have some pain through it. Work is hard. Any line of work, restaurant work is hard. I
Yes.
know you know that. That's one of the hardest jobs out there because you always got to be on it. And but hey, something good comes out of helping people. And like I said earlier, also, I'm a firm believer that food brings these people together. There's nothing like a good meal with your
Absolutely.
family, and that's why Thanksgiving's special. I am grateful to this country though, because it gave me an opportunity to be
An
right here
opportunity. Yeah.
in the universe this moment, to be able to share, like, Josh and hear Josh, and to be able to find out a little bit more about you, John, and you guys to get to know me. I mean, if we could bring this in the future, it's just, talk and talk boldly about life. And
Correct.
that's just beautiful, man, because I really believe that we're going to make an impact and we're going to like put down things to be able to develop goals
Mhm.
and reach areas where we don't even know yet, right? But
Mhm.
we're going to do it because the idea is all based around the energy of helping. And helping comes with creation and ideals and beauty. I'm super excited about this, man. John,
You right over there,
um,
Josh?
Yeah, house drip cat right
I got
here.
a question for you, Josh, and then
Uh,
we're gonna be wrapping up here soon. But I know this is important in you just by listening you through this last almost hour or so, and this your compassion that you have for what you do. So I'm gonna hit you with one that I know you're prepared for this. Why is working in the field of recovery mental health so deeply meaningful to you? Why is it meaningful? Why is it meaningful for you?
Man, to sum it up easily, why is it deeply meaningful to me is basically giving back that was so freely given to me.
Right.
I was the GM of Tyson Foods before I got sober. I ran Tyson Food Corporation in Oklahoma. And that when I got here, a man that I met, Nick, my sponsor, got me sober. And he always instilled into me, this is a gift. This is a gift. You got a passion to helping others. He said, give it back. You know that mouth you got that runs and can talk and be smooth? He said, you know how many people are going to listen to your stories and listen to your experiences and what you've been through and latch on to it and heal from it. He says the one thing about your recovery is that you can never let go of it because you got so many people that are going to rely on it and to help others. And I just love it, man. My passion is showing up and just answering the questions that they may have, or just giving them a key, a taste of something they've never got to taste before. And that's someone that genuinely cares about them and doesn't even know them. I tell them every time I see them, I don't know who you were when you were using. I just met the people that got sober.
Right.
I said, y'all guys are beautiful people, man. I don't need to know your past because I know you today. And the people I see today is it lights up my sky, man. Give the gift back that was freely given to me.
Man, that is a awesome perspective to be able to look at it from that way and just not be judgmental, especially those who have been judged for so long. And the last thing that somebody that's been judged for so long to be in an environment to where they're not being judged and just being looked at as human that just, stumbled. And we're here to understand. And I can see how, as much, whatever insight that I might have, I do not have the grassroots insights that you two have because you have been there, done that. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of times, if I was in that position, I would want to hear from somebody who's been in that position because you can't read a book to understand it. You see what I'm saying? You have to walk the walk. You have to do the dirty work to be able to understand what people are living in the moment. And I commend you guys for being able to come out of the moment that you're in and still understand that, there could be underlying demons waiting to rear their ugly heads. You see what I'm saying? But have the mental fortitude to be able to suppress those demons and then continue to work in an environment around that and then tell people that there is hope at the other end. And it's just you have to get there. You have to want that. You have to want to be able to get there. It's like when people, it's always equated to when people say they smoke. When they say they smoke, I don't smoke anymore. So I ask them, did you stop or did you quit? Because there's a difference. Like, what do you mean did I stop it when you quit? Okay, let's say you're driving down the street. The light turns red. Do you stop or do you quit? They say, I stopped. I say, what happened when it turned green? They say, I go on. Exactly. So did you stop or did you quit smoking? Which one did you do? They say, I never looked at it that way again. Well, I say that. Then I say, why? Because they say, yeah, I just stopped. I didn't quit. So there's a difference between the two. So that's why I always hit them with that question. So being able, is that something either one of you can answer? Do you see yourself as stopping the addiction or did you quit the addiction?
Go ahead, Chris.
Really, I see myself in look, my answers are maybe very different than anybody else's in the professional field or even in the recovery field and so on. But I feel that there's so much work to do and so much new things to explore and learn, particularly in society, mental health and addiction, and just life. You don't have to have mental health to understand that you may have problems that are heavy.
Yes.
You don't see it as mental health, maybe. And that's okay. But we got a long way to go, man. And people just, it's not discussed enough, and there's so many more things. We barely scratched the surface. People still look at things as being labeled, right? Some dude may be struggling with anxiety or depression, but they just call him a psycho, right? Or
Exactly.
off the wall. Labeling people like that, and it's just we got a long way to go, and I look at me, it's it's not really about stopping or quitting.
Mm-hmm.
It's I have to keep going, and that's the way I look at it, man. I gotta keep going, and if I can make an impact, the impact will grow. It's like a pyramid, right? People got to get on it and start building so you make it to the peak. And that's just the way I've been able to do it, man. And there's so many challenges, and I don't know everything about it because there's always something new. A day at work in this kind of field is every day is different. One day you got a crisis, another day you got a beautiful group of people just on top of the world. The next day, could be completely different, right? And that's life too, man. And I think everybody's been impacted by some. There's no way that if you take this whole country, let's just speak of the USA, right? together. Everybody knows a friend, a family member, or somebody that's been impacted by either substance abuse or mental health in some shape or form. A friend, close friend,
Mhm.
relative, someone.
Absolutely.
We all know someone that's been impacted. It's very real. And for those people, it's so real that it could lead to death if it's not talked about. And I feel like we need to do more,
Mhm.
right? We need to do more. And we do that by doing it, by reaching out to people, giving a hand and exploring and researching and talking and trying to really live up to your goals. And I have the same goal as Joshua does, be the best version of me,
That's all we
you
we
know,
can do. That's all
and
we
I
can do.
still make mistakes,
Yep.
and that's okay
And
too.
that's okay. It's absolutely okay
It is.
that
I
we
gotta say, the best moment, John, that you could ever see in someone's eyes is when that light goes off.
okay.
When they feel that power that says that they don't ever have to be that way anymore, that there's somebody that genuinely cares about them. Some of the best people in this program that I've ever met that have guided me have never touched a drink or a drug their whole life.
Mhm.
Some of the people that made the biggest impact on me is the people that have never even had a substance abuse or alcoholism,
Mhm.
because they have a way of life that I want so bad that I want to know how they got there.
Right.
I want to know how you're doing this, but you're not doing it with a substance or alcohol. You don't have a story about that. So how did you get through it without it?
Right.
How did you do all those years in the Air Force or the military and not have to go and all the traumas you're dealing? Let me know how you did that instead of how I usually do it.
Mhm.
And so we all play off of each other. That's what makes it a beautiful program, is that people that have never had a substance abuse issue to people that have, we all have suggestions. We all have a blueprint,
Mhm.
and what may work for me may not work for you, but
Right.
I'll take it and I'll put that tool in my toolbox. Believe me, I may need that same crescent wrench underneath the hood of my car, because that fire extinguisher is not helping me put out that ice fight.
Exactly. That's no assistance. So, I just want to say, I respect you guys' time and I appreciate y'all hanging out with me today. And before we wrap it up, I'm gonna give you both, a last 30 seconds to just drop a jewel for somebody who might be listening. If you have any type of support networks that you want to give a shout out to, or something that somebody can call or dial up, or anything that they can, if they want to have a conversation with somebody, I'm gonna give you each last 30 seconds to tell us, how they can move forward or what they can look forward to or anything like that. From the heart. Mr. Chris, you first, sir.
Sure. First thing and foremost, I wanted to welcome anybody to really, you know, make any kind of comments towards this podcast. If you need to reach out, there is support out there. I'm willing to share any kind of resources that can benefit you in any area. It doesn't matter what it is. I just want to be able to be advocate
Mm-hmm.
for you as an individual. Get something out of my story, or maybe what you tell me can be shared here, and we can impact somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what I really, really want people that watch this know, that hey man, you are this because you're watching it, and there's a reason behind that. And if you're getting something, good, because that's the whole idea behind this, is to really get something and put it out there,
Mm-hmm.
because there is people out there that are willing to listen and talk about life in general and be vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So be that person. Hit me up, hit John up. We'll answer questions, and we're going to move forward, and we're going to have some great stuff coming up soon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Josh, what you got for us, brother?
Man, the best thing I could say is, if you've made it this far to this video, this podcast, that you've taken the first step in saving your life.
That's awesome. That was an awesome statement right there. I like that, brother.
And if nobody's told you they love you today, just know I love you.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
And I want to really give a shout out to he's a very special man to me, my life coach, my best friend, my brother. He's my everything. He's guided me through life, got me every day, helped me guide me to get sober. His name's Nick. He's my sponsor. He's guided me through my program. His God and my God have to be best friends to have us together, because in the end, he's always put me on the right path. And he told me 8 months ago I'd meet a man like Chris, and that this guy Chris is going to send me to the moon and back to what I'm trying to do. And I really appreciate you having us on there. And if anybody ever needs to reach out, there's a whole community out there of people just like you that are doing the same thing and wanting to have the same questions. Reach out to somebody, talk to them.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. And my last words is, I'm very structured, so I wrote something down. Addiction may be a heavy chapter, but it's not the whole story. Recovery is a journey of courage, resilience, and rediscovery, proving that the past doesn't define your future. As we wrap up today, remember that help is out there, hope is real, and healing is possible. Whether you're walking this road and supporting someone who is, take it one step at a time, because every step matters. Thank you for joining us, and next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.